A review of the earnings after the close. Shopify, McKesson, DoorDash, Qualcomm highlight the releases. Below are a list of some of the major releases after the close. If the EPS and revenues both beat estimates, it says beat. If EPS or revenues miss, it says missed. Shopify Incorporated, Shop, beat. Adjective EPS 0.14 versus expected 0.05, revenue $1.69 billion versus expected $1.62 billion. Robinhood Markets Incorporated, Hood, beat, EPS 0.03 versus expected minus 0.01, revenue $486 million versus expected $472 million. McKesson Corp., MCK, beat. Adjective EPS 7.27 versus expected 5.87, revenue $74.5 billion versus expected $70.28 billion. DoorDash Incorporated, Dash, missed, EPS minus 0.44 versus expected minus 0.41, revenue $2.13 billion versus expected $2.06 billion. Equinix Incorporated, EQIX, missed, EPS 2.21 versus expected 2.06, revenue $2.0 billion versus expected $2.02 billion. Etsy Incorporated, Etsy, beat, EPS 0.45 versus expected 0.43, revenue $0.63 billion versus expected $0.62 billion. Mercado Libre Incorporated, Meli, beat, EPS 5.22 versus expected 4.54, revenue $3.4 billion versus expected $3.3 billion. Qualcomm Incorporated, QCOM, missed, adjective EPS 1.87 versus expected 1.81, revenue $8.44 billion versus expected $8.5 billion. PayPal Holdings Incorporated, Peppol, beat, adjective EPS 1.16 versus expected 1.16, revenue $7.3 billion versus expected $7.27 billion. Albemarle Corp., ALB, missed, adjective EPS 7.33 versus expected 4.44, revenue $2.37 billion versus expected $2.43 billion. Occidental Petroleum Corp., Oxy, missed, adjective EPS 0.68 versus expected 0.72. MGM Resorts International, MGM, beat, adjective EPS 0.59 versus expected 0.54, revenue $3.9 billion versus expected $3.82 billion.